I'm Jason Little, and this is 10 minutes off the top of my head. Well, we're making our way quite rapidly now towards that great blessing, and I want to do a follow-up video to the last video I did yesterday, which was the dangerous words of Jehovah's creation. And I think it's only fair if we look at creation from scientism or science's perspective as we have it now. But I do want to go over again, and I intend to do this probably in every video, the ground rules, what we need to understand, what needs to be established so that we're on the same ground here so that we can appreciate the blessing that is coming. So number one, the devil is a liar and the father of lies. Number two, we all suffer from cognitive dissonance. Number three, they are the Illuminati. Illuminati is not a noun. It is an adjective to describe those who are illuminated. Number four, they are of their father, the devil. Number five, the science is never settled. Number six, and it's a quote from Nikola Tesla, which says, today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments and wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. And so let's look at that, and especially number six here, because I think it comes into play big time when we're looking at scientism's idea about how the universe was formed, how creation happened, how we got here. So let's look at what science has to say about the Bible. So again, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What does science say about that? Well, science says that 13.7, 13.8, 14.2, 14.6 billion, somewhere between 10 and 20 billion years ago, and you can find all those numbers. Somewhere between 10 and 20 billion years ago, there was a microscopic dot, a microscopic particle that kept getting more and more and more and more condensed, and eventually it just exploded into the universe. And our solar system began to form about 4.5 billion years ago, or 3.7, or 4.8, or 5.2, or 6.1, or 2.9, or whatever billion years ago. I've always heard 4.5, but you can find all kinds of different numbers. 4.5 billion years ago, and what had happened was the solar system began to form around the sun, and all of these asteroids were out there, and they were smashing into each other, and then some of them kept getting bigger because they were somehow getting glued together, and as they got bigger, they became a ball, and those balls were attracting other littler asteroids and making a bigger ball, which is how we got the Earth. Who knows how Jupiter and Saturn formed, and Uranus and Neptune? I guess it was just the gas. That they may be solid in the middle at some point. Who knows? But that's how it happened. It just was by happenstance. It just all happened. And so as it began to happen, the Earth went through many phases. It went through a phase where it was just this atmosphereless rock floating in space. And then these comets hit it, and these comets had a lot of water, and they deposited the water on the Earth. And then the Earth was extremely hot, so as it began to evaporate that water, the atmosphere formed around the Earth, and then eventually it began to cool down somewhat, but then the volcano started blowing up, and it was just a mess, just a big old mess. And so after several million, billion years, whatever happened, whatever they say, and there's various accounts of this. Another planet came and hit the Earth and broke off a chunk, and that became the moon, or a giant asteroid hit, or another comet hit and broke off a chunk, and that became the moon, or as the Earth was forming, the moon came, or the moon was another giant body that was floating through space and just got attracted and captured by the Earth, or myriad ideas. And that's fine, and I don't have a problem with theories. But what does science say? When God said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, science says in the beginning there was a big bang, and that created all the universe. Now, I have a question for you who grip tightly to science and scientism. I have a big question for you. Now, when that microscopic particle exploded and created the universe, because string theory is no longer a theory in the sense of theory like you learned the word. It's a fact. There are multiple universes. When that happened, were the multiple universes created, or were they already in existence? Or did each universe come into being through the explosion of a microscopic particle that was condensed and under pressure and blew up? How did the multiverse get here? Forget just our universe, because we're not dealing with just that anymore, because string theory is now string fact. How did it just all happen? Do you have an answer for that? I've never even heard it even close to being explained, or anybody even asked that question, but that's my question. How did it happen? Were there multiple big bangs to create multiple universes? Innumerable big bangs to create innumerable universes? Is that how it happened? Were they all quantum particles that were connected through quantum entanglement? Is that how it happened? These particles were all connected together, quantum entanglement. They mirrored each other, or they did the exact same thing as each other. Is that how it happened? They exploded, created multiple universes. Is that what happened? Because I'm confused. Now, when we get back to the Earth and our solar system and how our solar system was formed, we find that Earth went through all these changes, and these asteroids brought this, that, and the other thing. And millions and billions of years ago, stars exploded. And stars, within the stars, it had all of the elements that we need for life on Earth. Our oxygen, I believe, carbon, nitrogen, all of that stuff, hydrogen, was cooked in the furnace of a star. And we're all made from star stuff. Hey, isn't that comforting to know that when we look up into the sky, we're seeing what made us? The stars made us. Now, the Bible says that the stars weren't made until the fourth day. So, I mean, that could work, because on the fourth day, stars were made. Man wasn't made until the sixth day. So perhaps, whatever. We can look at that. Not a problem. So it kind of jives with the Bible there. Stars were made before before man was made. But here's a big difference with science. The Bible says the earth and the heaven were made first. So the earth and the heaven were first. And the heaven, that's our atmosphere, okay? The earth and the heaven were made first. Then, after that, light was made. Then, after that, the dry land appeared. Then, after that, the vegetation was on the earth. God created the vegetation on the earth. Then, after that, the sun, the moon, and the stars were created. Now, science says, no, that's not true. What happened was the Big Bang, boom, kaplooey, the universe was created. The big ball was spinning around, rolling around the sun, collecting more littler asteroids and comets and all kinds of stuff. And that's how we got here. And then the stardust rained down on the earth, and the volcanoes exploded. And then the dinosaurs came. And then there were cavemen and, all that stuff. You're familiar with it, I would assume. So the Bible is absolutely 100% incorrect according to science. According to scientism. And I do want to make a distinction, because I think that there is a valuable use of science in our society, and I think that science has definitely served us well in many areas throughout the ages. But there is scientism, and the distinction is that scientism is that religion, it's that faith, it's that God that these people are now worshiping as the be-all and end-all of all existence and all knowledge. So, scientism tells us that the Bible's wrong, that God did not create the earth, that God did not create light, that God did not create the vegetation, that God did not make the dry land appear, that God did not create the sun, moon, and stars. They all just happened by accident. Now, let's look at some facts that scientism tells us about our own solar system. The scientists will tell us that the sun is 93 million miles away. No, it's 63 million miles. No, it's 54 million miles away. No, it's 48 million miles away. All of those numbers have been used at some point. Now the accepted number is 93 million miles away. So the sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is 240,000 miles away. The sun is 400 times further away from the earth than the moon is. But the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. Quite a coincidence, isn't it? Amazing. It's just amazing that all that happened through an explosion. Now, suffice it to say that I don't know of anybody who would give a testimony that an explosion created anything. But then again, I don't know that anybody's done too many explosions out in in a vacuum. So maybe the vacuum has something to do with it. I don't know. But I digress. So let's continue on here. Science says that a little tiny microscopic dot one day blew up and created everything that you can see, touch, taste, smell, or hear, or sense. It created everything. And so that's what science says. And you understand why I say that science and the Bible have irreconcilable differences and cannot be married to each other. And here's my problem. Christians for generations now have taken a back seat to science and scientism, and they have tried to make the Bible reconcile itself to science. And I think that's backwards. We should make science reconcile itself to what the Bible says. So I completely reject all of the cosmological theories out there today that didn't originate from the pages of the Bible. Now, you may look at it differently and say, well, the Bible says that it doesn't say this and it does say that and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that it all boils down to is this. You either believe what science says or you believe what the Bible says. And they don't say the same thing. Now, again, let's look at the foundation. The foundation that we're trying to lay here. The foundation of the facts that we have to understand and agree on. The devil is a liar and the father of lies. That we all suffer from cognitive dissonance. That they are the Illuminati, and the Illuminati is not a noun, it is an adjective. They're the illuminated ones. That they are of their father, the devil. That the science is never settled. And then finally, that today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments. And they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure that has no relation to reality. And isn't that what they've done with their Big Bang Theory and their theory of evolution? So it boils down to this. You're either going to believe the billions and billions and billions of years of science, or you're going to believe the word of Jehovah God. So the question to you is this. Which one do you believe? That's all the time I've got for this video. God bless you. See you on the next one.